Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make this twisted Celtic wirework bracelet, and this is what mine looks like here. So you have this kind of nice braid, so it's basically a 4-strand braid or a snake braid but added with a twist in there, which makes it kind of Celtic looking, I think. And I've just used regular wire and then also twisted wire to add a bit of an effect to it. You can obviously combine however you want to. That's what it looks like. So if you want to learn how to make this, then keep watching. So these are the materials that I'm going to be using here. First of all, we need our wires. These are both regular round copper wire. I've just got a silver one and then a copper one here. And I'm using 2 different gauges, but you don't have to. I've got 2 different purposes for these gauges here. The first one is a 0.6mm. This is going to be the main part, so the main wire that we're going to use. And then this is a 0.4mm. Now what I'm going to do with the 0.4mm is twist it together. So I'm not going to use it as it is, we're going to twist it to get almost the equivalent to the 0.6mm. So that's why you could also, instead of using the 0.4mm, just use lengths only of 0.6mm. That's completely up to you. And then I have my ribbon ends here to help finish off the bracelet nicely and professionally. And then obviously the clasp as well. So I've got a lobster claw clasp and an extended chain and then some jump rings to attach them. You can obviously use whatever clasp you want to. So let's get it together and let's get started. So what I then have ready here are the wires that I'm going to be using. So you can see I have 2 different ones, but they're all the same length, about 45 centimeters. And I have 12 lengths in total. So one of the groups here, this is the 0.6mm, and I have 8 of those. And then I have the group of the twisted wire, just the design that I'm working with. So I have 4 in total. And what I've done with the twisted wires is I've just taken 1 meter of the 0.4mm, folded it over in half, and then twisted that together. And then that's how I came up with about the 45 centimeter length, which I then cut the others according to. So we just need these wires here. Obviously you can just use regular wire for all of it, that's completely up to you. So now that we have the wires ready, I've then taken all the lengths and I put them into this spring clamp here, just to help hold on to right at the beginning especially. Makes it much easier. And then what I've done is I've separated them into the groups I'm going to be working with them in. So the 3 wires per group, where I have 1 of the 0.6mm on each side of a twisted one. So that's one group there. And then just stagger them next to each other here. So I have it ready now. I just have a short length through the spring clamp and then to start making the braid. So then the main thing you have to make sure of here working with this, it's a pretty simple technique, but the most important thing is to keep all the wires flat. So keep them in the groups and then keep the individual groups flat next to each other as well. So you always have that twisted wire in the middle of the group. So that's the most important thing to achieve a nice finished look. Then what we're going to do is start the braid. I'm just going to start doing 1 or 2 kind of movements before we get into the pattern for the rest of it, just to get it going. And you're constantly working in these groups here. So just basically acting as one group is 1 length of wire or whatever it is you're braiding. Just making sure that they lie flat next to each other. And this is basically a variation of the snake braid that we're making, a 4-strand braid. So I'm going to take one of my outer ones, start with whatever side, I'm going to bring this, make sure it's flat, over the next group that's right next to it there, and in towards the middle. So just like that, bring it over and into the middle there. Don't worry too much about how neat it is right at the beginning, because chances are it might be a little bit messy, because it's just getting the braid started. That's the most important thing. Because then we can always cut off the beginning until we get the nicer braid going and then use that at the end. And then that's in the middle now. We need to go from the opposite side. So that's, in this case, is my left one. I'm going to take that, bring it underneath the next one. Again, in towards the middle. So under the next group. So we went over on one side and now we're going over under on the other side. Making sure to keep everything flat. And then in towards the middle, and then we have those 2 new ones in the middle here. What I'm going to do is cross these over each other, but again do it in opposite ways. So the one that comes over on the right side needs to go under this new one, and then the one that comes under there needs to go over the other one in the middle. So we just swap them like that. So basically all you got to keep thinking of with this braid really is mainly just thinking of opposites, so the way that we're going over and under to get this kind of braided effect. So just like that. Separate your groups out a bit, make it easier to work with. Again, continue to make sure that they're nice and flat as well. So, just getting the braid going. I want to just do one more movement here before I actually get into the pattern. just also to make sure we kind of have the rhythm going. So that means on the right side here, again, last one I went over, I need to do the same, because if you look in the middle, this one that's coming towards that I need to go over on the next time is coming over the one in the middle. So I need to do the opposite with this one. So that one coming from this side goes over and then needs to come under the one on the outside. So bring that over, and what I like to do also is my fingers here, hold it up where kind of the curve is going to be, and then bring it inwards towards the middle while holding it nice and flat. And if it kind of doesn't stay flat, the wires get a little bit twisted with each other, you just sort it out as you're going. Bring them into the right position before you move on, because you kind of need to make sure that as you go, you can't really go back and fix it very easily. So that now comes over the next one, and this one comes underneath that one out to the side now, and this in the middle, the one we just moved. And then the one from the other side, as you can see, that needs to go under the next one in, because that's coming under already, to make sure it goes opposite. So keep hold of that, make it nice and flat, and bring it in towards the middle. Just like that. And then we just need to check the middle ones here. Now this is already naturally gotten in the right position. So obviously you might do that naturally, or if not, just double check that it's coming opposite each other, how it's crossing over and under. So the one from the left side is now going over because it went under the previous one. So just like that. So this is basically the basics of the snake braid, regular 4-strand braid. And we have it going now. So what I want to do is start getting into the actual pattern that I want to do. And that is basically continuing the same braid in principle, but we're adding in kind of a twist here and there, while then still continuing the same technique, you could say. So I'm just going to swap the way I'm holding this. Hold it however you feel most comfortable. It's completely up to you. So now what we need to do is do that twist that I want to add in while continuing the braid after it. So just make sure everything kind of sits nicely. And then I want to focus on the two middle ones here. So I have, in my case, looking at it from this angle, the one coming from the right side is crossing over, and I want to add the little twist between these two. So what I like to do is put my fingers right onto where that overlap is to hold on to them, and then I'm going to hold on to them nicely and then take one side at a time, one group, and then start moving them in towards each other. So basically in towards the middle again. Just do one at a time, move them a little bit at a time, making sure that they lie nice and flat. And then we want to overlap these again, but making sure they're going opposite than what they already were. So that means the one that's coming over now needs to come back under it. Hold it nice and flat, like that. Keep hold of it here with your fingers, and then bring it under while pulling it across. And again, just do a bit at a time. You can always go back to them, back and forth. Do the other one. That's then the one that comes over, and bring that over to the opposite side. And there you can see we're adding in a nice little kind of twist between these two wires, and then bring them out to opposite sides again. And keep them in the groups, nice and flat. Make sure, double check everything still lays the way you want it to. And then we've done that one twist with the middle wires. We then need to go back and incorporate the outer wires again and basically do the snake braid like we just did. So to incorporate them, we then just need to check how we need to go over and under. So if we look at the very last twist we did, the one coming from the right crossing over towards the left is going over. So that means the one furthest towards the left here needs to go over that for this to come underneath the next one. So I'm going to grab this group, nice and flat, and then I like to kind of hold it a bit out, not right down here but a bit out, because you get a bit of a nicer curve when you do that. Bring it over that group coming from the middle, and then get a nice curve around the side of the piece there, just like that. Again, you can just move a bit at a time, and we can always go back to it once we've done the other side as well. Now the one on the other side, we need to go under, because this one coming from the middle, it goes under, so that needs to go over the other one here on the side. So keep hold of it. Make sure the group is flat. Put your finger down here again to hold onto the wire, and then bring it into the middle, making sure it comes underneath, and you get that nice curve on the edge. And then obviously you want to just spend a bit of time making sure you get it as symmetrical and even on both sides as possible. And then we can go back and forth here, moving them continuously until we feel like they're just in the right position where we want them to sit. So tighten it up if you need to, move any wires around any of the groups here. So it looks a little something like that. Double check all the groups are going over and under in the right directions, because that's, like I said, is what creates the braid. So there we go. That's basically one movement of the snake braid again, you could say. And then we need to go on to the next step, which is then straight into the next twist, the one that we just did here in the middle. But now obviously it's the opposite groups of wires that we're doing that with. So I'm going to make sure everything sits nicely, that I'm happy with how it sits. Just like that. Put my finger on them ones in the middle, and then start pulling them in towards the middle again, just these two. And then just do one at a time, work them inwards, and then just making sure we're crossing these over and under in the right way. So that means the one coming from the left is going over, so that needs to come back under. Bring it all the way under the other one. A bit like that, go to the other one again. So I do this kind of back and forth from one group to the other, just to make sure I don't pull one too far or to make it too asymmetrical. But it's just, I find a better way to try and keep them nice and even and get a bit of a better and even result here. And you can always go back and tweak anything you want. Make sure the groups are flat. And keep pulling them until you're happy with just the way they sit. That twist right there in the middle. And there we go. Something a bit like that. So you can see that's the very next twist, exact same way that we did the other one. And then now what we need to do is incorporate the outer ones again. And that just happens in the exact same way as before. Do one group at a time. This one has to go over the next one in to fit with how they go over and under. You could also see that it comes under from the previous one, so that's also a way to see it. And then get that curve in there and bring that in towards the middle. And then I'm swapping over to the other one, which needs to go under. Hold it nice and flat. Make sure, in my case here I'm using the twisted wire, always make sure that that sits in the middle. Just like that, and bring it in. And then quite often, naturally, like I said before as well, I'll naturally get this one to go over the other one already in the middle, which is exactly how we want the braid to be. And bring it in. And then we just maneuver them in place again until we're happy with how it sits. So however tight or loose you want the braid is up to you as well. Depends how much of a gap or a space you leave between the movements here, or the twists or the braid. So something a bit like that, and then you find the rhythm, and then once you kind of get into the braid, it works out pretty quickly as well. So that's just a technique, so keep doing that until you pretty much used up all the wires there, and then all we have to do is finish it off. So now that I've then reached the end here, then what we need to do is finish off the ends as well, and obviously get the right length of the bracelet. So I'm just going to show you on this end because it's the same on both. So I've kind of finished on here. What we need to do is cut the rest of the wires off, and then I'm just going to take the outer two wires here, because also we don't want them to be sticking out to the side, and just grab hold of them where I want the bend to start, and just bend them around towards the inside. This is not really to continue the braid, it's just to get them more inside, so they're going to fit inside the ribbon end we're going to use. Same on the other side here. Again, make sure they're flat, and bring this around. Just so it looks like the end of the braid anyway, so it's all going to blend in. because then the very end of it here is going to end up going inside the ribbon end. So once we have that, I need to cut off the excess wire, and all I'm going to do is the ones in the middle here, I'm going to cut off inside the middle. So just like that, and the same with the other one here. Because we just want to try and make sure as well that we don't have too much bulk inside the ribbon end, because we want to make sure to be able to squeeze it flat. Like that. And then the outer ones that are kind of curved inwards a little bit, I'm just going to cut them so they're about the same length as the other ones are here after being cut off. Just something a bit like that. And the same with the other one as well. So there we go. That's now the excess wire gotten rid of. And then you can see we're going to put the ribbon end right on top of that, and it's going to give it a really nice finish. But before I do it, I want to make sure to also add some glue. Now first of all as well, what I just like to do is to grab my chain nose pliers here, or flat nose, and I just like to just get the very end of the wire just about 1 millimeter or 2, and then just do a slight little bend to the side, and I usually always do it inwards towards the middle, like that. And the same with the wire on the other side, so just the whole group at the same time. And again, try and make sure to not add too much bulk to this, but just do a gentle little bend. And then also, if you can, a little bit on the inside ones, the middle ones there. The reason that I do this is just because I personally prefer the extra security, because if you just add the ends of the wires as they are inside the ribbon end, even with glue, I find that it's going to be not as durable, I need to sort them out here, as if you do a little bend at the end, because it can still just be able to pull out, at least over time, because you just have this smooth end of the wire, whereas if you add a little bit of a bend, it kind of causes the glue to really grab onto and get in between, and I feel it makes it much more secure. I just make sure everything is still staying in place right at the end there. And then what we need to do is get our glue out. And for this, what I'm using is the E6000, because it's a nice and really strong glue, but also it dries clear in case a little bit spills out. You won't really be able to see it. And then usually just take a toothpick here to help apply it with. Just get a little bit on it. You don't have to use too much, and rather use too little, because you can always add a bit extra glue rather than take away. And then get my ribbon end here and get the glue inside of it, all the way up and down the sides of the ribbon end. And so you really don't need that much. There's a bit too much I've got on here, that'll be fine. And then usually like to take whatever I have left and then just get that also right at the end of the actual piece, and just make sure some of that glue goes right in between the wires there, just like I said, so it really grabs on, because then the ribbon end and the end of this piece are really gonna get secured together nicely, obviously once the glue dries. And something a bit like that. Get the excess glue off. Then I take the ribbon end and put it on top of that, and then I like to take my flat nose pliers, and then I usually hold the whole piece in my hand like that, and then I put my fingers on the ends of the ribbon end, and then I just start to squeeze down, and I do this kind of gently, a bit at a time, like that. Go from side to side until you get close to having it all the way down. Then I just want to do one final check on it, make sure everything's stayed the way I want it to stay, so it looks nice still, and that the ribbon end is sitting in the middle, so it's not scooted to one side over the other as you squeeze it down. And then when I'm happy with it, I go in and do my final squeezes. And do it nice and tight. Put some bit of strength into that. So that's going to really be nice and secure, and especially with that glue in there as well. I always like to just go in from the ends to kind of close them up a bit. And there we go. And that's all there is to finishing off the ends. Obviously, you then need to measure the length that you want. Mine is the clasp, so taking the clasp into account is going to add a bit of length to it. Measure it, finish off the other end the exact same way, and then obviously add your clasp, and then you'll have your finished bracelet. And when you then finish both ends here, and also attach the clasp, all that's left to do before to be able to wear it is shape it into place. So you can either shape it around something that's got the shape and the size you want it to have, or just use your hands and fingers. So I just start from one place and start doing gradual movements from side to side. So I don't go into one place and make a big bend because that'll make it out of shape, but just put a nice gradual curve in there, and you'll get more and more. And obviously move the ends towards each other. And what I personally prefer is more of an oval shape rather than a round. I feel that sits better on the wrist and also a bit more comfortable. But obviously you can make it however you want to. So keep shaping it here till the ends start to meet up. Almost there. And then obviously we can then use the clasp, and then you'll have your finished bracelet. So it looks a little something like that. Give a really nice kind of almost Celtic effect with this twisted braid. Obviously it's based on the snake braid, but that's what it looks like. And obviously you can make it completely your design depending how you use your wires. Whereas I use that twisted wire, you can obviously not use that, or use whatever you want to. Some other coloured wires as well, that'd be nice. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it useful, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make this wire woven Kumihimo bracelet. And these are the two versions that I have here. So it's the exact same thing, but I just have one that's just plain of the bracelet itself, and then I have one here where I've added in beads or gemstones. So you can see how different they can look, but it's the exact same basic technique underneath there. Now this one as well, I think because of all the texture in it, without adding the beads, the texture itself on the bracelet, I think it'd be quite nice to